Well, it is Friday, and of course we know what that means here on Pop. It means it's time for another rousing edition of AJ's Movie Reviews. And we're going to be talking about 5 films this time around. We actually saw all 5 of these theatrically, which is something that doesn't happen very often for a review video, especially when there's multiple parts of it. So we watched 3 movies at Regal, 2 movies in Athens, 1 at the Grand, 1 at Athena Cinema. So we went around the world, at least around this world, during this time frame. So, AJ, with our first review, take it away.
I guess we're starting with Ender's Game.
Okay.
Well, first off, as far as box office prospects go, apparently people were going to, people were afraid it wouldn't do very well because Orson Scott Card is basically acting a fool in every interview he's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly, but apparently he's made a lot of very bad comments that people aren't liking.
Okay.
Controversial statements, I guess.
We'll go with that.
If you want to be neutral. And apparently, but to be honest, I had to mention this a few times to people. People were wondering if his real life persona is the reason people wouldn't go see this movie, because he's the author of the book.
Yeah.
But I kept telling people, I don't know what these comments were, but apparently they're bad. They're like, people were questioning the box office, which apparently is doing fine. It made over 1 million last night.
Yeah, that was Halloween night, too, so people had stuff they could be doing otherwise.
There was a lot of people in there with us, too, last night. So.
Yeah, definitely.
No, the thing that really creeped me out about the book was that this guy, I don't know how many of the book readers are out there, but I found this guy a little creepy because of the fact that there's a lot of nudity in the book. And as you know, all the characters we're really focusing on are children.
Yeah.
And he gets into some awkward details. Like the fight with Bonzo in the shower, for instance, is in a little more detail.
Oh boy.
He gets we get some kind of weird look into how Ender feels about his sexuality, I guess, because they something about Petra sleeping naked and him like walking right by her or something, and I just remember being weirded out by this aspect of the book because it was there so often.
We found the Larry Clark of novels.
But of course the movie cleans that up.
Yeah.
I don't know how many comparisons I'll be making to the book throughout this review because it was a little while. It was this year, but it was a while back that I read it, so it's kind of. I don't remember all the details of what made it into the movie and what didn't, and all that.
Apparently,
just when Orson Scott Card was creeping me out.
Well, apparently this movie coming out's a big deal. I've never even heard of Ender's Game before just finding out about the movie.
Yeah, I just heard about the movie and then I tracked the book down.
Well, that's how it usually works.
That's only my only history of it. I will calm the if there are fans of the book who haven't seen the movie yet that are concerned about this. I had heard a while back that the movie had apparently changed the book's ending. Mm-hmm. There's a bit, not the ending, but there's like a twist towards the end. Okay. That blew people's minds when they read it in the book. And there was a rumor that the movie had changed that, but that's actually no, that actually didn't happen. The movie actually does keep it the way it is in the book. Okay. That particular part anyway. There was a guy outside the theater in the hallway talking about all the changes the movie made, but I didn't remember the stuff he was talking about when I read it. So
I heard that, guys. I was heading to the bathroom actually.
That guy apparently read the book a lot. Well, apparently this is one of those books where the people that do know what it is have read it like 1 billion times, so it's one of those. So I guess we'll go into, I guess we can talk about the effects first. Mm-hmm. That was pretty impressive. Apparently, I've never heard it in the Oscar conversation for visual effects because that's such a stacked category now with Gravity and The Hobbit and Now that I'm on the spot, I can't remember them. But there's like 8 movies battling for spots and visual effects at the Oscars. So
even Captain Phillips would be something that could have consideration.
So this is probably on the outskirts of it. But,
yeah.
There is I guess we'll go into cast now. Maybe I should say the plot because it's a review.
Yeah, of course.
Not many. I guess there are a lot of. I guess there are people that don't know the book, and the trailer may not have been totally open with the plot. Ender, who is Asa Butterfield, who was Hugo, is basically a from the Scorsese movie. If that seemed too vague. Reuniting with Ben Kingsley here, of course.
Still being yelled at.
Yeah. He's basically a child genius.
Yeah.
And because children are like, we're in like the future, I think. Well, clearly. And, yeah. Was that established? I don't remember.
Kind of. Well, his brother was a hothead, and he was the one that was trying to get into this program first, and they pretty much kicked him out because he's way too violent. Ender was kind of the correct balance between emotion and violence, and that's exactly what they were looking for.
No, but we don't know when it's set.
No,
for sure.
Not really. There's no actual date that I remember hearing.
But regardless, whatever.
I don't remember
either. They're using children for their. They take them to like this battle boot camp because they're raised on video games.
Yes.
Trying to make a statement there, Orson Scott Card. So they recruit them, and they have like these little armies of them, and they're basically going to treat the alien invasion like it's a video game for these kids, except they're real and probably really deadly because 50 years ago they fought this gigantic horde of them and won. The character, who may or may not be dead, is the one that won for them. And he basically, he said like he's building models of his shit since he was 6 and stuff like that. He like idolizes him.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck it. Spoiler alert, it's Kingsley. And he's still alive. There was really no reason to beat around that.
No.
And then you have Harrison Ford, who I'm sure had to endure quite a bit of Star Wars jokes on the set of this movie. But,
I'm sure.
He's really good, like he has been for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Like, every now and then he has that performance where he's just kind of there. Extraordinary Measures.
Extraordinary Measures always comes to mind.
Hollywood Homicide kind of. He has some funny moments in Hollywood Homicide, but for the most part he was pretty just walking through that movie. But this is... He's got a good track going on here with this right after 42.
Which actually had early Oscar buzz, and they were trying to get people in, but I guess that's probably...
Yeah, unfortunately, that was... Yeah. There's Haley Steinfeld, who everybody knows from True Grit, who we'll be visiting later in this video. There's something else she's done since True Grit, isn't there? I think just a bunch of indie movies. And then there is... Yeah, that's it.
Just a bunch of indie movies, you're correct.
Yeah, she's in John Carney's new movie. Abigail Breslin, who is obviously... You jumped a Little Miss Sunshine. People know her for a lot of stuff now. Most recently, The Call, which is a piece of shit. But we won't go into that. Yeah, Zombieland, Signs, all that jazz. Viola Davis, who's pretty wasted here. Like, she doesn't really... I'm not like the... Well... Alright, Viola Davis is fine. It's just... She's just not given anything to do here, really. Because she's known for being, like... the quintessential actress of, like, her age. One of the quintessential actresses of her race and age.
Yeah.
That's what they... She's, like, the poster child.
If you want a dramatic moment. Especially
like last year at the round table, Denzel was talking about how his daughter wants to be an actress, and he said, if you look at Viola Davis, that's what you want to strive to be.
Fair enough.
Then there's that kid from The Kings of Summer. What's his real name?
Moises Arias.
Yeah, I read the book for this movie, and now I feel so uneducated on the movie itself. I'm stumbling all over this. He is Bones, so he's like the basically in charge of the group that Ender gets put in with, and he's like, I can't tell if he's really that tough or if he's one of those. He's compensating because he's like 5 feet tall.
Well, I didn't realize his name was Bonzo because the whole time I was thinking they were saying his name was Bonesaw.
Regardless, he's like he's kind of like the Lord Farquaad of this group. He's the shortest of them, yet he has the most power.
Biggest Napoleon complex of all times.
Yeah. Yeah, I could have said Napoleon, but I jumped to Lord Farquaad for some reason.
Same thing. Basically, same thing. Shrek's creators will tell you just that. Same thing.
But yeah, this I think this movie will surprise people because it's surprisingly like well written, especially for a movie based off like a young adult book. I think that's where it would fall under. I'm not totally positive. It's in that. It's
young
in
adult
that,
sci-fi.
It's in that franchise book group. It's just its own thing now. And then there is I didn't really talk about Kingsley's performance. He's actually not really there enough to really make an impression. But
he doesn't show up till almost 3/4 into the movie.
Yeah, there is. I remember that. There's a segment in the book where he's like when Ender wakes up and he's just sitting on the floor, like in his room.
Like from Suspect Zero.
Yeah. In the book, it's like a test.
Mm-hmm.
And Ender just kind of doesn't bother him. And this goes on for like days. Like he'll wake up and he'll just be sitting in the room. And then finally, after a few days of this, he confronts him and tries to fight him. But in the movie, he just does it immediately. Because that's what you have to do when you adapt the book.
Of course.
There's a whole subplot that's in the book involving Abigail Breslin that was pretty trimmed down. Which is good because that was kind of like... there was a lot of parts in the book that lost me. The movie rises above the source material for sure.
Okay.
Not to say the book's bad or anything. That's it's got this whole following that's gonna murder me and lynch me for saying that, but maybe not even in that order. But Asa Butterfield is showing to be a really great, I guess to use the cliche, up and coming actor. I particularly love the line. When he has like a really great score and somebody suggests that he cheated, and his response immediately is, your mom cheated, that's why you look like a plumber.
That made everybody in the entire theater laugh too. A lot of good comedy in this movie.
Yeah, it's not really your, it's actually smart about it too. It's not like the, being funny for the sake of being funny in a blockbuster thing. It's actually like, clever and well written.
It makes sense in the placement that it has.
I feel like I recognize the sergeant, the big guy, but I can't think of where that would be. We're gonna cheat and use the internet, I guess. The Gray might be what I'm thinking of, or maybe Conan. The Conan.
He's on Game of Thrones too, apparently.
Yeah, I don't care for Game of Thrones, so that's probably not it. I mean, I've watched Game of Thrones, but I don't really care to remember it. And he's in Atonement, yeah.
Happy-go-lucky. But
yeah, I didn't take notes for this movie, that's why I'm all over the place. So, yeah, there's really nothing else. There's not a whole lot to say about it. It pretty much is what it is. It's a sci-fi action movie with comedy where it needs to be, with drama where it needs to be. It does have something that it needs to resolve at the end, but it kind of felt a little prolonged, the ending.
Yeah.
Like it kind of, I mean, I know, I make this, I really, really jump on people's cases when like with movies like Django, where this is concerned, but this is one of those movies where I felt like the only reason it feels too long is because you set up one ending when that's not the actual ending.
Yeah.
And that tends to kind of screw with people's heads.
Correct.
Like I said, though, I'm a hypocrite because in the Django review I said I blame that on people's impatience to not realize when the ending actually is. Mm-hmm. Regardless of my hypocrisy, that's how I felt about it. So, yeah. I wish I was more passionate like the book readers, considering I read the book, but it was only once, and I only remember about half of it. There was stuff in the movie that I recognized from the book that I didn't remember until I saw it. So, this is your very small lackluster review of Ender's Game. It's a recommendation. It was probably my favorite movie we saw this week.
Yeah.
There. That's all you need to know.
Well, I will say something right now that it completely shocked me when I went into this movie. I saw the first trailer and it didn't get me. I wasn't captivated by it.
You say first trailer? I think it only had one.
Yeah.
I don't remember a second trailer.
Yeah, I did only put one on something. Anyway, I saw the trailer and it was kind of like, yeah, this could be really, really bad. This could be one of those B-type movies that, like, kind of like how Thunderbirds was.
That's just in your subconscious because of
Ben Kingsley, yeah, maybe.
There was something I was having trouble with in the battle scenes.
Okay.
I don't mean to insult either one. I'm not necessarily saying one is masculine when they shouldn't be or one is feminine when they shouldn't be. I'm just saying I kind of had this problem.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but I found it a little odd that when Asa Butterfield and Haley Steinfeld were in their suits with like the helmets and all you could see was their faces, I kind of had trouble telling them apart. They kind of, for some reason, I think that in the suits they kind of have similar face. Their faces kind of look similar, and I couldn't tell which one was
the
which.
body structure too, actually. But Asa Butterfield, you really tell it was him because he's a lot more twig-like and small and skinny.
Even though he's much bigger than he is in Hugo, like in this 2 years, he like. So there's that.
The thing about this movie that kind of got me was the fact that it really did get me. I actually did enjoy this movie, and I did not think I would. And once again, you guys know this, I do kind of nod off sometimes, or most of the times during movies, but this is one I thought that I would just completely zonk out right immediately. I was into this movie from beginning to end, and I really liked everything about it. It looks amazing visually, all the performances were really good, and it's something that everyone's going to enjoy, not just one niche audience.
It's worth noting who the director is.
Yeah.
The director is Gavin Hood, who did, I think the two most movies he's famous for are Wolverine and Rendition, which obviously aren't the most well-liked movies. Obviously, Reese Wood... Oh, yeah, that foreign movie with the title that's hard to say.
Nazi?
Yeah, well, yes, that's how it's said, I guess. But anyway, yeah, but honestly, Rendition is actually underrated, and while Wolverine had a lot of missteps, it's not as bad as people make it out to be.
No, just Deadpool.
And Zombie is really good if you can find it.
Yeah.
You gotta learn how to spell it before you can find it, so you can find it. So that's... I'm umming my way through this, which means it's probably about time to move on. Anything else?
It's, like I said, it's a recommendation. I know that it's gonna split the crowds this weekend, honestly, because there's a lot of people... Everything that came out this weekend, is something that is going to fit a certain demographic. But like you were saying, there are people that are just gonna wait next week till Thor comes out and not spend any money this weekend. So I know there's gonna be people watching this review that are gonna be like, oh, maybe we'll just wait till next week. And I don't know if that's going to do with the box office, but the fact that it's already made over $1 million just last night, and it was Halloween when there's actually things to do. There's horror movies to watch. I don't know if you want to do...
Not in the theater.
Yeah, no, not in the theater. Well, there is, but not
Nobody cares about K-Ray anymore.
Yeah, sadly.
Everybody's singing Insidious.
Yep. So yeah, definitely a recommendation. It is the best movie that we watched this week, I would say.
I'll tell you what they should... I mean, I know it's on DVD right now, but this past weekend they should have re-released The Conjuring.
Yeah.
But, whatever.
Would have made more sense.
But now that it's on DVD, I don't know why they didn't.
Makes sense as well.
Alright, let's go to our next movie, which is Las Vegas. Which people have been basically calling the geriatric hangover.
But this one's actually funny.
Well, here's the thing. This was apparently this was a while in the making, and I think I'm not positive. What I remember hearing way back in the day when this was first being developed was it was basically the same cast, I think, except it was going to be Nicholson instead of Kevin Kline.
After watching the movie, I can see it, but I also see that he would have brought something different to the character.
Yeah. I will start off by saying one thing that stood out immediately. And don't get the wrong idea here, because I don't hate this movie the way most people hate this movie. This movie reminded me of another movie, and I have, not in just a, hey, it's kind of like that. I mean, it lines up a little closely. Las Vegas is basically Wild Hogs without motorcycles.
Yeah, I can see that.
They're older guys that want to do something to make them feel young again, so they go on a trip together. You have the rich hotshot. In Wild Hogs, that was Travolta. In this movie, it's Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
You have the apprehensive one. That is De Niro in this one, and Tim Allen in Wild Hogs.
Yeah.
You have the, let's be blunt, the black one. You have Freeman here, and you have Martin Lawrence in Wild Hogs. And then you have the quirky, awkward guy with the glasses. Macy in Wild Hogs and Kevin Kline here.
Wow.
And then they meet a girl that kind of falls in with them, and one of them ends up falling for her. Mary Steenburgen here, Marissa Tomei in Wild Hogs.
Good God. This might as well be a versus.
Only thing, this movie has no Ray Liotta, though. There's a kid that, there's some college kid or something that, keeps wanting to fight with them that eventually becomes, their little slave when they... There is a funny segment where they pretend to be, retired mafia men.
Yeah, that was fun.
And intimidate people into respecting them, basically. I guess we can talk about the individual people. Like I was telling you, I know Michael Douglas is, up there with... I don't know the exact ages of everybody involved. I found it a little odd that Michael Douglas was used in this, because not to go against the other guys by saying this, I don't know how else to word this. Michael Douglas doesn't look near as old as them, but a huge major plot point at the end is how old Douglas is.
Yeah.
I don't think Kevin Kline is really that old either, but I think the beard and the glasses were supposed to make him look older than he actually is. Yeah, he's younger than Michael Douglas, I figured. And you have De Niro. Well, first off, if you want a little reference, yeah, they're all about the same age, I guess. I wouldn't have thought that. Surely Freeman's a little older, or I'm just really... Okay, good. Freeman's 10 years older than them. Okay, I was gonna feel really bad if Freeman was the youngest of them. Okay. Oh my God. Yeah, I heard about that. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Next year, apparently. I think, yeah, it was a little off-putting that they were, maybe, I don't know, maybe this is common with them. They don't really seem that as old as they're I mean, judging by the, thinking about the movie's script, apparently what it is, without thinking about who is cast, I'm imagining, somebody mentioned Don Rickles in the movie.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't go as far as Kirk Douglas or anything, but, regardless, yeah, they're old, so fine.
And they make a lot of jokes out of it too.
Yeah, it is a one joke premise that they love to beat into the ground, but they even Kevin Kline's wife even makes fun of him for making a bunch of Florida jokes because he's old.
Hey now.
And it is one of those movies that's obvious. Every single thing that happens is pretty much obvious at every turn.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
There's no real suspense or big surprises or anything. But I think and it's another one that kind of goes on too long. It's got way too many of those moments that are every movie has that, every movie that's a comedy like this, every attempt at a feel-good movie or something like that always has those
15-20 minutes that just go on a little bit too long.
Those sad moments moments.
Yeah.
Where there's like a fight or somebody finds something out that they weren't supposed to find out and they just kind of sulk around. We literally had to dissolve and just see him sulk around the city to sad violin music. We heard that sad violin music way too many times.
Yeah.
It was like watching Full House almost. But you know, in another movie with another cast, that would have been unbearable, and this whole movie would have been unbearable. But because of the cast they chose, these are 4 actors that can like if you like, a lot of these actors have really bad movies.
Yes.
But they're the actors where every time you see those bad movies, you're like, well, at least that person was good in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the 4 of them all working together on this movie make it rise above quite a bit of what it could have been. The horribleness that it could have been, but thankfully wasn't. So, okay. Well, I won't say that it's, like, good, but,
you could do a lot worse.
They pretty much make it worth watching. Like,
yeah.
if you're gonna go to it, it's not gonna be bad, you know. Like, you have to really get through the cliches and the fact that there's no surprises whatsoever to this.
No.
You could imagine this movie in your head before you even go in and probably hit all the marks.
Yep.
It's John Turteltaub, the guy that guy is weird. He does like romantic comedies and he does PG action movies. He did like National Treasure and he did While You Were Sleeping, and that's like the way his filmography goes. I was interested to learn that this movie was actually originally rated R, but yeah, he did Cool Runnings and Three Ninjas and Phenomenon. It's a weird filmography.
Yes, very much so.
This movie was originally rated R, and it's actually PG-13 on appeal, which basically means they didn't change it from the R rating. They just sent the R-rated movie back to the MPAA for them to try to reevaluate it to get it PG-13. I think that's how that works.
I'm not sure why.
I don't know if they edited stuff. There was a couple of scenes that looked edited. Like, there were a couple of times where De Niro was off screen, and he said the words, "I don't give a flying crap."
Yeah, and you could definitely tell it was ADR'd over.
But what makes that great is there is we talked about this with the internship, I think. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the key to a PG-13 comedy is where you're going to put your one use of fuck, because you only get one in most movies, and they use it well.
Yeah, they do.
Should we just go ahead and lay that out?
Yes.
Well, they're going into this club that's like a VIP club,
mm-hmm.
and there's this very funny scene where they he says it's 18, and they're like, well, Freeman tries to bribe the guy with a $10 bill. And then the guy's like, it's 18, and so they pull $1 bills out of the pocket, and they manage to get together $18.
They gave him 19, an extra dollar for him.
To keep you warm or something is what he said.
Yeah.
And then the guy said, no, it's 1800. And there's this long pause, and then Kevin Kline just goes, fuck!
Made everybody in the entire theater crack up laughing.
But if I had to guess, I would say there's a great punchline. I don't know if I want to ruin it. Should I ruin it?
Might entice people to see the movie.
It's This is the scene I think is why it was rated R. It's one line. Just one line that Kevin Kline says, I think is why it was rated R to begin with, before it got appealed.
Okay.
Like I said, this is like a good punchline towards the end of the movie, so if you don't want it spoiled, you can probably skip ahead. But Kevin Kline's wife is giving him a free pass. One free pass. She actually gives him a card with one Viagra pill in it and a condom. Yep. Just one condom. And she says, you know, their love life is clearly dead. If he has to get something out of his system, he just has to go do it.
Just don't tell me about it.
So, then finally he's with this very attractive girl that's like a bridesmaid at a bachelorette party or something. And they go upstairs. And just as you would imagine, just as she is naked and they're about to do something, he changes his mind and says he doesn't want to. Because he tells this touching story about his wife and all that, and then they decide not to, and she understands, and she says, oh, I want to meet somebody like you and marry him, and it's this nice little moment, and then she leaves to go to the bathroom to get changed. And it's this nice, sweet little moment. And then Klein just turns, and I can't remember the exact line, but it was something along the lines of, God, I built this all up and now I forgot the fucking punchline. I know the word he used, I'm just trying to remember the exact sentence he used. Something along the lines of, well, maybe a blowjob's not out of the question. Something tells me that was probably the R-rated line that managed to sneak in.
There may have been nudity too, potentially. From that scene, possibly. Because the way the camera was going, it looks like they could have cut that so you didn't see anything. But then again, that might have been part of the
It's worth noting
scene.
that if you've seen The Producers, you're aware of an actor named Roger Bart.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great actor. It's really fun when he pops up in movies. He's in he was the guy that was the main guy in Hostel 2 that didn't want to torture anybody, but then just went fucking insane at the end.
I remember him.
He is the racist guy in American Gangster, and he's in drag in The Producers. You get to see him in drag again as a Madonna impersonator, basically.
Yep.
And you see him, it's like Woody Harrelson in Anger Management. You see him as his normal self in like a suit at the end, and they recognize him. Unfortunately, a lot of the funny scenes were in the trailers, which is why I'm avoiding trailers for like the rest of next year. Like the big moment where Freeman's about to jump out the window, and there's a punchline there. There's the room is spinning joke that comes back a few times, and my personal favorite moment from the trailers, which is actually it is funnier in the movie because it goes on for longer than it does in the trailer. Freeman with the Red Bull.
Oh god, that was funny.
Like, it seems like an obvious setup, or but they managed to. Just the way Freeman does that scene is great. There's a couple of recognizable young actors like Michael Ealy as Freeman's son, who's basically there to be the you're not allowed to do, like, he's basically the one that Freeman's being defiant against, and that's why he's doing this.
It reminded me like Robot and Frank. That setup right there.
Yeah. Here's the thing that made Michael Ealy out of Marsden. Yeah.
Yep.
There was one lost opportunity that was kind of like. Well, I haven't seen him for a while. He's probably too grown up to do it now, but I couldn't help but wonder why Owen Klein wasn't playing the young. What was his character's name? Sam. Obviously, Owen Klein is Kevin Klein and Phoebe Cates' son, who was the little brother in The Squid and the Whale.
Yeah.
He was obviously an actor. Maybe he's not. I don't know. Is he still an actor? It just seemed, obvious. If your son's an actor, why not have him play the younger version of you? But maybe he's too old now because time is going by quickly, and I don't realize that The Squid and the Whale was 8 years ago. So. Nope, he has not acted since The Squid and the Whale. He was in a short. Okay, that explains that.
He went to college according to this thing I have here.
Alright.
So, yeah.
Well, that explains that then. Whatever. It's just surprising because he was, really good on The Squid and the Whale, but, that's generally what they do. They act when they're young, and then they go to college and do all that, and then they make their decision.
Chelsea Clinton did that same thing too. Not acting, but she went to college after.
Oh. Alright. So yeah, I guess this just depends on, this is I don't know how to say this without sounding condescending or anything, but it was clearly made for the people that will go see it.
Yep.
And the people that want to go see this, I'm sure will love it.
Oh yeah.
Cause it's exactly what you expect it to be. There was no surprises whatsoever.
No, none whatsoever.
So, that's pretty much that.
Mild recommendation?
Yeah, if you're into that kind of thing. Yeah. There are some moments that are irritatingly by the numbers, but like I said, just the four of them, will make you rise above that. I think I was going to say this before, but I don't think I said it yet.
Good.
For those of you who love your little in-jokes, there is a scene, briefly, where De Niro punches somebody, and then later on he's like riled up about it, like he's getting really excited about it. And yeah, you get to see De Niro throw punches at a mirror, like at his reflection in a mirror. Which, I don't know if you're aware of this, is the ending of Raging Bull. It's the scene in Boogie Nights is a direct lift from it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much Las Vegas. So
there's worse comedies this year.
Yeah, and there will be continue to be, I'm sure.
I'm guaranteed.
There's only 2 months left, but I'm sure there'll be another bad comedy somewhere.
Madea's Christmas.
That's not comedy, that's tragedy. So we're going on the Freebirds now?
Sounds good.
Alright. It's worth noting that this movie was originally called Turkeys. That was its title. I just find that funny.
And sadly, this is not a biopic about Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin and Buddy Roberts. This isn't those Freebirds. No, it's about 2 turkeys. Owen Wilson and Woody Harrelson.
Mm-hmm. And Amy Poehler later.
Yeah, but she doesn't show up till a little bit in.
Before we go into anything, I'd like to mention that this is from Relativity. Has Relativity been into animation much? Or is this a new thing?
It may be a new thing, because that was weird seeing that logo. I was like, I'm not used to seeing this logo, especially on an animated movie.
Yeah. But anyway, we start, and they like, immediately put us into this comedy, because text comes on the screen to tell us that this is a complete work of fiction. And they talk about how nothing in this movie is historically accurate. And then more words come up that say, except the fact that the turkeys talk, that is totally real. Alright, surely you've seen the trailers by now. Obviously, it's about these 2 turkeys that travel back in time to the first Thanksgiving to try to get turkeys off the menu.
Thank you, trailer guy.
Well, Woody Harrelson says that in the movie, and for a long time it was also IMDb's direct synopsis, so... But here, okay, I just need to say something about this movie before we get, like, into it specifically.
Okay.
This movie does have a lot of really funny moments. Mm-hmm. And there's in-jokes galore. We'll get to those in a minute.
Yeah.
But, there's something off about this movie that I can't quite put my finger on.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. I find this movie a little weird.
Interesting. That's interesting wording.
I felt like I don't know what I'm looking for. It kind of felt like maybe this is a I don't know. Maybe maybe you'll consider this a recommendation. Maybe you won't. I have no idea. This movie feels like it was written by like stoners.
Yeah. Especially the pizza delivery guy.
I don't know how else to describe it. It's that kind of comedy, like, throughout.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. Like, I'm not trying to, degrade that kind of comedy. I'm just saying that's not quite what I was expecting.
No.
It was, I don't know, maybe that's how they got Woody Harrelson signed on. Maybe he went out back with the writers and they...
All the Twinkies you can eat, brother.
The plot is a lot like, it's a very Chicken Run vibe.
I never saw Chicken Run, but...
I don't really remember much about it, but it was a lot like this, I think.
Alright, we'll go with that.
And at the start of it, the trailer doesn't really go into this. It kind of does, but they don't really, go into detail. What happens is he is chosen by the president's daughter. This is like a very Clinton-esque president.
Yeah.
He doesn't have like the white hair or anything, but he has the voice. And there's the moment where his daughter is like the president's daughter is like a character out of The Invention of Lying. Like she just goes around and says exactly what things are. Like they go on the plane and there's a guy sitting there like, that's Paul, he's getting a divorce. And then there's like this attractive secretary and she's like, that's the girl that that likes my dad, but don't tell anybody.
That was funny.
And then she basically treats him like a pet until he learns that he's basically going to be the president's Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah.
And then he meets Woody Harrelson in the woods, and Woody Harrelson tells him that what they have to do. Because something called the Great Turkey, which there's an explanation for eventually, tells him the plot. Well, first off, they I got a lot of sense that they were there's some things lifted from Pixar,
Yeah.
Most notably, people pointed this out in the trailer, the yellow suits that the guys are in that are chasing them are obviously much like the yellow suit guys in Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
And there is, for some reason, this goes away after a while, maybe because they realized they were kind of ripping it off, but the first 20 minutes or so after we've met Woody Harrelson's turkey, he acts a lot like Dory.
Yeah.
Because he'll be there, he talks fast, and then he'll forget something that he just said like 10 seconds later. I don't know if that was like maybe they're like gonna say it's an homage or something, but
okay.
For a while there, I've already forgotten his name now. Jake. Jake came off a lot like Dory.
I can see that.
At least at the start, and then just mysteriously that personality trait disappeared, but whatever. Another problem is, well, that's the thing, is, what I was saying about Las Vegas, where, there's a lot of not good things, but there's one thing that, in Las Vegas, it being the cast, that rises it up to a level of, a recommendation.
Of course.
The funny parts of this movie, and the fact that the comedy is consistent, would be what I'm recommending about this movie, but the problem is there's a lot of problems with this movie. Another one being that, that's not, I don't really know how to word it. It's got a lot of, this premise is an interesting premise.
Yeah, definitely.
But the trouble is they don't really have,
a direction to go with it?
They don't have a lot of creative ideas to back it up with and to throw into it. It's just kind of, the premise is what it is, and that's pretty much all you're offered. And then the movie goes from there and does what it needs to do. Even when they do they do that obvious thing that every time travel movie has, where obviously you have to have one ending where it's just completely everything goes wrong and it's horrible and everything. But there's no suspense, obviously, because you have a time machine in the equation. So you know you're going to have to experience one ending just so they can go back in time to fix it and come up with a whole other ending.
Of course.
But the thing is I don't really know how that scene worked, because they didn't really use the time travel to their advantage. No. We had the ending that was like a not happy ending, and then when they went back in time, they didn't really change anything. I mean, they kind of, well, there's the one thing that's there, but that doesn't really, it was very simple.
Yeah.
It was just the one thing they needed to do, and, you know, they didn't really play with the butterfly effect or anything.
No.
So, that was, nah. But then another problem with its comedy, I said it was consistently funny and consistently a comedy, but not everything is funny.
No.
One of the problems that it does is it's really, remember when I said it was weird?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically basking in its own weirdness, and that's where a lot of it comes from. Like, they basically are just weird for the sake of it, and then they try to make comedy out of a character pointing out how weird this is.
Not much laughter in the theater either.
Well, there weren't very many people in there either.
No, but
there was like
they were spread
people.
Out. Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically a lot of the laughs come from them addressing their own weirdness or whatever.
Yeah.
Because Jake is a weird character. He's like, I don't know what's wrong with him. Like, we got his backstory. I was going to assume there was like something like wrong with him. I mean, something, you know, bad happened to him in his past, but it's not like, it doesn't explain why he's so awkward.
No short-term memory this time around.
There's a lot of in-jokes and references.
Yes.
There's a particular line where they just push everything together, like something like, maybe he'll take us back to the future for an excellent adventure, and it's like you throw in 2 time machine movies into one reference. Let's go ahead and mention that Scott Mosier was a writer and the producer.
Yes.
As in Kevin Smith's Scott Mosier.
Yes.
His producer. That's weird.
Very much so.
I wonder how he fell into this. I don't know. But yeah, it does. Yeah, there was a couple. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but there are a couple of dirty jokes too. Because I kept thinking it was weird that they were in there, but I can't remember what they were off the top of my head now. But they're in there. So you know, this week was a little more lackluster than I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, none of these movies are bad.
No.
It's just, you know, I'm not really passionate about any of them.
No.
And Ender's Game is, you know, the best one of the 5 you're about to hear about. Maybe Enough Said will challenge it, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just kind of in the middle with most of these.
Yeah.
So, you want to just go on to Enough Said?
That's appropriate for the next thing you say is Enough Said.
Yeah, they give, I don't know how to really pronounce the director's last name. It's Nicole...
Olaf Steiner?
We'll go with that. It's basically... She does really good movies. She did Friends with Money, Lovely and Amazing, and Please Give. And one more movie that I didn't say. Which was... Apparently we don't know. And what she basically did was make a spin-off of Seinfeld with Elaine.
Yeah.
That's just I mean, if you want to just, you know, put it bluntly, I guess. So much so that her ex-husband is played by Toby Huss, who played the Wiz in that one episode. He's mainly known for, Toby Huss is mainly known for he's a Sinatra impersonator, and he's already on The Adventures of Being Paid.
Yes.
Well, anyway, but the interesting thing this movie does is it takes this obvious cliche premise. It's not necessarily the big lie premise. It's more along the lines of let's just keep information from the people we care about, knowing that it's going to come back to bite us, but we do it anyway.
It's not as complicated.
It kind of has that same feel. This does feel like a cleaner Nancy Meyers movie.
Yeah, I can see that.
A very heavily edited Nancy Meyers movies, because Nancy Meyers movies are way too long.
Yes.
And this is a clean-cut hour and a half. Basically, Joy Louis-Dreyfus is a masseuse. Before I go on, this is the second indie movie this year about a masseuse. The other is Touchy Feely, Lynn Shelton's movie with Rosemary DeWitt, where she plays a masseuse that loses the feeling in her hands. And it's got a lot of side plots, but it's one of those. But this is better than Touchy Feely. Joy Louis-Dreyfus is at this party. I think she was... I don't even remember what it's for. I think it's like a friend or something. But regardless...
Potential clients.
Yeah, that's it. And she meets Catherine Keener, and she meets Gandolfini. And Catherine Keener, she meets a new client. And she, you know, they set up that whole thing. Then later on in the party, she meets Gandolfini, who's there, and then they kind of have a somewhat connection, but not really. I
don't find anybody at this party attractive.
Yeah, it's a lot like the meeting of John C. Reilly, Marissa Tomei, and Cyrus.
Yeah?
When John C. Reilly was talking about, like, I look like Shrek, you know, it's like, what's Shrek doing out here?
Yeah, we're that.
Lynn Shelton and this director and the Duplass brothers are pretty much all in this same indie area. You know Catherine Keener should be decent because she's in all of this director's movies. Mm-hmm. And of course, you know, she becomes friends with her, and she starts to fall for Gandolfini after they go on a date. And this friendship is progressing, this relationship is progressing, and then of course, Keener starts talking about her disgusting ex-husband. Mm-hmm. Gandolfini starts talking about his controlling ex-wife. And it turns out that Keener and Gandolfini are the ex-husband and ex-wife. Other way around. And then there's this subplot involving... I don't even know what this was doing in there. Maybe because they realized how short the movie was.
Yeah.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus has a daughter. And that daughter has a friend. And this friend has a mom who's kind of neglectful.
Very much so.
So the friend is always staying over at the house. So Julia Louis-Dreyfus and this friend start forming a bond, and the daughter, who's going off to college, much like Gandolfini's daughter. It's almost like a Woody Allen movie now.
Kind of.
Actually, this feels a lot like Woody Allen. I wasn't thinking about that before. Which is funny because Gandolfini once referred to himself as a 300-pound Woody Allen. When people asked him if he was like Tony Soprano at all in real life,
Nice.
He said he was the opposite. But anyway, and then the daughter starts getting jealous and bitter because the friend is having more of a bond with her mom than she is. There's this, I don't know.
Can I have my mom back? Can I have my daughter back? Stuff like that.
But you know, I roll my eyes when I say this, but in reality, it takes all these, like a good indie movie. This is what indie movies are supposed to do, but not all of them can accomplish it. They take these like plot contrivances and all these normal cliche plot lines.
Yeah.
But they somehow manage to bring a fresh quality to them, whether it be through dialogue or the way scenes are handled or the way characters react to certain things. Obviously, they don't escape the. You're gonna have your big reveal and everybody goes separate ways and doesn't talk for a while.
Of course.
Only to resolve ambiguously, but not so much ambiguously because it's. I kind of, as much as I liked the movie, it kind of made me, like, grit my teeth a little bit at the fucking obvious symbolism, but clearly the movie ends ambiguously because the title fills in the blank.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why the movie's called that, basically. And there's this other subplot where, she has a friend played by Toni Collette, who's in a practically loveless marriage.
Yeah.
And then they have a maid that's like, they're trying to fire, and they're
too nice.
There's a few scenes like that. Yeah, I don't know, Enough Said is so much better, so don't think I'm comparing the two movies. I'm just saying, it reminds me of In a World, how we have these subplots involving the people in the main character's life that don't really feel like they need to be there. I don't know if it's... maybe they're trying to do a character ensemble thing, but it just kind of feels weird and out of place when you have one storyline and then for some reason you try to branch off into these other things. This movie has so many subplots in it, it's weird.
Yeah.
Then we have the whole thing with Gandolfini's job, where he's like... What was that exactly?
I couldn't really tell. He looked like he was kind of like...
It's like
he worked in the archives.
Yeah. Like old TV shows.
Yeah, he's like an archivist in old television shows. And he's like an idiot savant when it comes to TV shows. They were like quizzing him, like, okay, what was it this time on that day?
It's like Rayman on the Jukebox.
Exactly.
But obviously this movie is getting a lot of attention because, well, it's not Gandolfini's swan song, but it's like, he's getting a lot of posthumous Oscar buzz.
Yeah.
So, maybe that could happen, maybe it couldn't.
We'll see.
I may or may not have recently thrown him in there. After seeing the movie, I really don't know. I think, well, it's not so much of, I don't know what it is. I think it's not so much, he doesn't have big scenes or anything.
No, he really doesn't.
It's just it's just one of those, it's the whole performance is kind of like what he's able to bring to this character to make the character what it is.
Yeah.
Like there was one particular scene was when they're actually no, it's just a bunch of scenes where they do the awkwardness well. Like in an indie movie, the awkwardness can get really, really overplayed. Mm-hmm. But it's both Julia Louis-Dreyfus, I think, isn't getting enough credit for this movie, but they're both both managed to bring that realism to their relationship because obviously Julia Louis-Dreyfus is this extremely attractive woman, and Gandolfini was a bigger, maybe not so attractive looking guy. Mm-hmm. But they managed to make this believable and realistic.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Gandolfini always makes those remarks about himself, so I hope I wasn't sounding disrespectful to the dead, or a magnificent actor, by the way. So that's pretty much the extent of that. I guess our last... Is that your stomach?
Yes.
I guess.
Apparently so.
Alright, our last movie is probably the most surprising movie in this bunch for sure.
Yeah.
Guess what? They did Romeo and Juliet again.
Again!
And there's this kid named Douglas Booth, I think. Yeah. I don't know who he is. But he is Romeo and Haley Steinfeld is Juliet. And then we have, yeah, I saw LOL, but I don't really remember anything.
That's all that he's done.
I intentionally shut it out. And you got like, the Capulets are Damian Lewis and Natasha, how do you say her name? McElwain, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
From Solaris, among many other things. Surviving Picasso, too. And you have the Montagues, who are always wasted. Like in every adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, they're just nobody cares about them. They're barely there.
Random people.
Yeah, I don't even know those actors. At least their names are named. And you also have Stellan Skarsgård in there, and you have Paul Giamatti as Friar Lawrence, and Ed Westwick as Tybalt. And Cody Smith-McPhee as Benvolio. There's actually a fairly amount of young, recognizable faces in it. And Leslie Manville is the maid that basically helps Juliet scheme. When I went into this, I was expecting like some really bad school play put on film.
Yeah.
A lot of critics apparently said that's what they got. But I didn't think so. I was actually really surprised that the production quality this had in the performances.
Yeah.
It's really well acted. Like Damian Lewis and Paul Giamatti are like... Paul Giamatti is Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
And Damian Lewis has been, I think, doing Shakespeare on stage for quite some time now. And they have their big moments, their big scenes. Giamatti's got like 3 big scenes.
Yeah.
And the young actors are great too, especially Cody Smith-McPhee, who obviously everybody already loves because of The Road and Paranorman. I'm pretty sure there's another one. The only problem I have is some of the... Let me in, that's it. So, I will say one problem I have. It's actually mainly with Douglas Booth, but you could throw in a couple of the others too. Some of the young male cast, like the older cast and the girls pretty much, I would say, fit in for the most part, but a lot of the young male cast almost looked to, they don't exactly look of the era. Like, Douglas Booth is playing Romeo, but he looks like, when I saw his face, all I could see was like a high school jock or something. And it kind of like, it's kind of off-putting. I don't know how he got the part. I'm sure it was very sought after. But that wasn't a problem all the time. Mm-hmm. Just every now and then it was like, well, this is clearly in present day.
They don't look like they don't look like people from that era looked in any of the things we've ever seen in movies, books, or television.
Yeah.
Way too pretty, I guess that's the word we're looking for.
But there is, and there's a lot of good, obviously, we're talking about a period piece, you have to get into that. Like, there's a lot of great set pieces. Not all of them seem as authentic as some other ones. Like, some other ones that, like, there were some where it was like, they could have just shot this on God knows what, whatever. Okay. But then there are scenes like the balcony. Like, the balcony is, like, really grand. And then there's, one of the first scenes is, and almost, I don't know why Stoker came to mind, because Stoker is the movie this year with, like, a shitload of great shots.
Yeah.
But it's this shot at the very beginning of the movie where Juliet's like coming down a spiral staircase, and we're seeing it from like below, And it's like, I think that's the way it looked. It was like the ceiling had like this huge design all around it.
Mm-hmm.
That scene was really well shot and well put together. Yeah. I was a little, there was, like, some people actually weren't sure what was going on here. Like, whether it was modernized, like not necessarily the Lerman way, but maybe like the way Whedon did Much Ado About Nothing. If it was going to be something like that.
Yeah.
But it's like a pure period piece. It's just like the 1968 version or the 1936 version. But yeah, the thing about this though is it is good that they actually got like the actual proper age. Like in the 68 version and the 36 version, Romeo and Juliet are played by adults when they're supposed to be like teenagers.
I can't even imagine that, honestly.
It was weird.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So yeah, but yeah, this movie I think got panned pretty well, but I actually was like surprised by it. I was surprised by how well done it was. So
not what you're expecting at all.
And how well acted it is, given that's how young a lot of its cast is. So yeah, the standouts are definitely Damian Lewis and Paul Giamatti for sure. Not to undermine the young cast at all. Go to Sue McPhee, you can put up with them too. So I think that's about all.
So recommendation for Romeo and Juliet?
Yeah. I'd say the highest recommendations go to Ender's Game, Romeo and Juliet, and Enough Said. And if you really want to go to Freebirds or Las Vegas, you won't have a bad time, so there's nothing I'm trying to steer you away from in this video.
Not this week, at least. Next week, we will be returning with a lot of movies that were not watched theatrically, if anything comes out at all, because right now we're only looking at one wide release of Thor: The Dark World, and then there's one that's
there might be maybe About Time
potentially coming out, which is About Time. So if we have anything else on the videos at all, they're going to be limited release movies or movies that we're not able to watch theatrically. So we've got a great verses this week. We continue our scary themed verses for the next 4 weeks, as we're going to be doing anthologies, actually, your cryptic comment for today. And you have a day to decipher it, because that video is coming out tomorrow. So AJ, do you have any parting thoughts for this video?
Not really.
All right.